This isn't just a message, it's a divine appointment. The fact that you're here right now is not random. Something greater led you to this moment because something powerful is about to be unlocked within you. You've felt it, haven't you? That inner knowing, that quiet tug on your soul telling you that you're meant for more. This is your confirmation. You are not average. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. Everything you've walked through, everything that tried to break you, only shaped you. The confusion, the waiting, the closed doors, it was all a setup for the rise that starts now. You're not late, you're not behind, you're right on time. This is divine timing, and this moment is yours. As you read this, let the distractions fade. This space is sacred. What's about to unfold isn't just information, it's activation. This is your reminder of who you really are, what you carry, and why you had to walk the road you did. You didn't come this far to stop. You came this far to shift. And trust me, something in you is about to wake up. So if you feel that fire building in your chest, drop in the comments. If your spirit is shouting, yes, even if your mind doesn't fully understand yet, then lean in. Because the chosen never need all the facts to follow the pull. They move by faith. And if that's you, welcome. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break cycles, shake systems, and rewrite stories. Stay with me to the end. Every word is layered. Every line is lifting you. This isn't just a message. It's a mirror for your calling. Let's begin. In a world wired for instant triumph and public validation, some stories unfold in quiet detours that seem invisible to the crowd. But that is precisely their strength. While the noise of ambition echoed around you, you moved through stillness, misunderstood by those chasing momentum. It may have felt like stalling, like time forgot you, but what was happening was a redefinition, not a delay. You were being shaped in silence for something that cannot be rushed. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution, it's a declaration, a step toward who you were meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. Where others ran to be seen, your steps were directed inward, each one carving depth rather than spotlight. While many climbed ladders built on visibility, your foundation was being dug in places no one thought to look. You were not collecting claps. You were learning to carry something weightier than applause. What is rare must be prepared differently. And your process was never meant to be recognizable. It was meant to be revelatory. Real transformation rarely comes with an audience. It unfolds behind curtains, in the dismantling of old versions of self, in the refining of motives, in the quiet confrontations with truth. This was not obscurity. It was preservation. What looked like halted plans was actually sacred calibration, not meant to fit expectations, but to exceed them. Systems could not make room for you because you were never meant to echo them. You were designed to reimagine what was possible. No spotlight can substitute for the internal strength forged when no one is watching. That's why nothing seemed to align by ordinary standards, because you were never called to an ordinary outcome. What was removed was not rejection, it was realignment. What was withheld was not failure, it was fuel. And what felt like silence was actually a sacred sound building within, preparing to break through at the appointed time. When you emerge, it will not be for attention, but for alignment. You won't need to announce your arrival. The shift will be felt, not because of theatrics, but because of the clarity you carry, the wisdom grown in wilderness, the strength built in solitude, the endurance that comes only from unseen battles. Those will speak louder than anything you say. The world will encounter not just a person, but a presence shaped by a deeper fire. True influence is not performed, it is embodied. That is why your season required stillness, not stardom. The journey was never about being noticed. It was about becoming undeniable. What is rooted cannot be shaken. And now, after the deconstruction, the rebuilding, the recalibration, you are no longer just capable. You are consecrated, not waiting to catch up, but rising in rhythm with something far greater than applause. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. There's a reason heaven speaks in whispers. It's because only those willing to get quiet enough can truly hear. Loneliness, though painful, is often the sacred stage where that whisper becomes clear. Picture a potter at the wheel. The shaping doesn't happen in chaos. The vessel isn't molded in the noise of the market, but in the stillness of the workshop, where every curve, every press of the hand has intention. That's what your loneliness was, a divine workshop where God shaped you away from the noise, far from the opinions of others, close to his hands. It may have looked like people walked away. It may have felt like prayers went unanswered, like your name stopped being called, like your presence stopped mattering. But baby, let me tell you something. You weren't being abandoned. You were being anointed. God didn't remove you from the crowd to hurt you. He pulled you aside because he couldn't afford for your destiny to be contaminated by distraction. See, when a gardener plants something rare, they don't leave it in the open. They put it in a greenhouse, controlled, protected, hidden. Why? Because it's too valuable to be exposed too soon. That's what happened to you. You weren't forgotten. You were fenced in. And it was for your growth. He was building your roots deep so that when you rise, you don't sway with every wind that blows. While others were sprinting toward stages, you were learning how to stand in sacred silence. While some were gaining followers, you were gaining fortitude. While many were shouting into microphones, you were sitting at the feet of the Master, being taught how to move mountains with a whisper. Don't mistake the silence for a setback. God does his finest work in the quiet. Let me talk straight to that part of you that wondered, why doesn't anyone call anymore? That cried into a pillow at night, wondering, did I miss it? Did I mess it up? No, you didn't miss anything. You were being placed, not passed over, and placement takes precision. See, when you're chosen, you don't grow like everyone else. You don't bloom in the crowd. You bloom in the cave, and caves don't echo. They conceal, they protect, they preserve. Not everyone will get that. Not everyone will understand why you needed the silence. But your spirit knew. That's why, even in the ache of loneliness, something in you held on. Something in you whispered, there's more. And now you're starting to see it, aren't you? Now that things are shifting, you look back and realize that wasn't a breakdown. It was a build-up. That wasn't rejection. It was redirection. Every moment of stillness was heaven making room in you. Not for noise, not for popularity, but for power. Real, unshakable, unmistakable power. You were never being punished. You were being positioned. And now, when you walk into rooms, you don't need to announce yourself. You don't need to explain your silence. The weight you carry will speak for itself. The atmosphere will shift, not because of your volume, but because of your vessel. Because in that quiet place, you became a carrier of clarity. Listen to me. Loneliness was not the end of your story. It was the setup for your elevation. It was God saying, I need one who can hear me when the crowd is gone. I need one who walks by spirit, not sight. I need one who can carry what others dropped. And he chose you. Yes, you. Right in the middle of your wandering, your weeping, your wilderness. He called your name. So now, don't be afraid of the quiet seasons. Don't despise the days when your phone is silent and the doors seem closed. That's not the end. That's the incubation. That's where your discernment grows. That's where you learn what others miss. That's where the noise dies down and God steps in. And when he speaks, he doesn't shout. He whispers. But oh, when he whispers, it shakes everything. You are not empty. You are not alone. You are set apart. And the quiet? That was never absence. That was the divine signal. Get ready. I'm about to reveal what I've been growing in you all along. Understanding bloomed in the absence of company. You began perceiving what eyes can't see and catching what ears usually miss. These insights weren't the fruit of external stimulation. They were born in the cave of solitude, where your spirit was being attuned to frequencies far beyond common comprehension. What looked like disconnection was the birthing ground of deeper communion. This quiet was never meant to crush. It was meant to recalibrate. The noise had to stop so the deeper messages could surface. You were being taught how to stand with nothing but presence, to feel truth without the scaffolding of applause, to recognize your essence outside the mirrors others held up to you. What you thought was void was actually vision being fine-tuned. What you mistook for exile was a sacred encounter unfolding beneath the stillness. Through this shaping season, your inner ear grew sharp, your spiritual footing grounded, your need for approval dismantled. No longer easily swayed or defined by the temporary attention of others, you emerged fluent in a higher language, one spoken through discernment, silence, and trust. The solitude taught you how to recognize signals others are blind to, how to anchor in storms others never sense approaching. The emptiness was never empty. It was full of formation. Now, what once felt like rejection reveals itself as redirection, and the ache that haunted you becomes the architecture of a soul rebuilt in strength. You've come to realize the most profound transformations happen in quiet, in hiddenness, in moments unrecorded. And what you gained in those unseen hours is now part of you, not borrowed, not taught, but earned. The world may never fully grasp it, but you do. You carry a silence that speaks louder than sound. If you've been touched by God's grace, let that light shine. Click the super thank you button and sow a seed of $100 or more to fuel a movement of faith and transformation. Your giving is more than a gift. It's a declaration of His abundance. Be a channel of His blessings and watch His work multiply through you. What you've been carrying wasn't just weight. It was history wrapped in purpose. The unrest in your mind, the heaviness in your chest, the quiet battles no one saw were echoes of unfinished stories, buried in your lineage. This wasn't just your fight. It was the culmination of unresolved reckonings, passed down, hoping for someone brave enough to confront them. And you, unknowingly at first, stepped into that reckoning. You were not merely living a life. You were standing at a threshold, asked to untangle knots no one before you dared to name. While others repeated patterns or numbed the pain with distraction, you faced the mirror. You refused to accept cycles as destiny. Every sleepless hour, every silent scream, every moment you nearly gave in was a battle not just for yourself, but for generations who never got the chance to choose differently. You inherited a terrain scattered with traps and shadows, but you did not collapse. You confronted what many ignored and stood still where most retreated. The war wasn't random. It was precise, calculated, ancient, and it ended at your feet. You became the fulcrum upon which everything would shift. You were not meant to simply endure. You were meant to reroute everything. That's why the resistance was relentless, because your victory would mean a rewrite. The forces that came for you were never just fighting today. They feared your tomorrow. But the strength you forged in the chaos turned you into the very thing they tried to prevent, a new blueprint. You don't just survive. You reimagine what survival looks like. Your existence now carries evidence that the story can change. With every boundary you set, with every truth you claim, with every healing breath you take, a page is rewritten. Not just for you, but for everyone born from your breakthrough. You've become the quiet revolution your ancestry never saw coming. Where there was fracture, you're building foundation. Where there was silence, you're echoing strength. What once held your bloodline hostage is now crumbling under your resilience. Every act of healing is a statement. The line breaks here, and the future begins again. Legacy is no longer a wound passed down. It's a new direction. You have become the turning point, the unforeseen force that altered everything without needing a stage. And when they speak your name someday, it won't be as a survivor of the old. It'll be as the architect of what's new. There are those who carry questions in their chest, like locked doors. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why do others seem to leap forward while their own steps feel slowed by unseen hands? But what appeared to be delay was actually divine redirection, and what seemed like silence was a strategy far beyond what the moment could explain. Every unanswered prayer, every still season, was an act of preservation, not punishment. If the doors had opened when first knocked on, the weight behind them would have crushed more than it would have carried. What felt like stillness was the soil where strength was being cultivated. What looked like missed opportunity was actually mercy clearing the path. Some stages would have stolen your focus. Some connections would have diluted your purpose. The stillness was not stagnation. It was shielding. In the background, a different kind of construction was taking place. Vision was sharpening. Identity was anchoring. Integrity was being established. Time was not passing idly. It was weaving depth into your core. And what seemed like slow progress was heaven's way of making sure the foundation would outlast the applause. It wasn't that the doors were locked forever. They simply weren't meant to open while your hands were still healing. Some corridors held intentions wrapped in poison. Some rooms were dressed in gold, but hollow inside. So the red lights weren't roadblocks. They were signals to pause, while your strength caught up with your destiny. Delay didn't diminish your value. It preserved your capacity. The pause was never passive. It was the space where unseen battles were won. Discernment deepened. Character matured. Trust grew roots that wouldn't sway when the winds of recognition began to blow. This time, when the gate opens, you won't just walk through it. You'll be equipped to build within it, lead inside it, and not be lost to it. Every detour guarded you from imitation paths. Every unanswered door saved you from shallow soil. You were not held back. You were held safe. There was no rejection, only a recalibration. Some things did not unfold because their timing would have made you fragile instead of fortified. Now, what awaits is no longer just a dream. It's a responsibility, and you are becoming the kind of person who can carry it with care. You are not forgotten. you are being forged. And when everything aligns, it will not arrive as a surprise. It will arrive as a confirmation. Not just because the path cleared, but because you were crafted to carry what is coming. The disconnect didn't begin with bitterness. It began with awakening. The places that once felt like home started shrinking as your spirit began expanding. What used to fill your heart now left echoes. The laughter you once chased grew hollow. The masks no longer fit because your soul stopped pretending. This wasn't rejection of the world. It was alignment with something deeper than it could ever offer. There was a quiet shifting. Familiar rhythms felt offbeat. Comfort grew heavy. Popularity lost its taste. You weren't losing yourself. You were returning to who you truly were before expectations dressed you in borrowed clothes. You no longer moved for attention, but with intention. What others called isolation became your sanctuary. To walk this path, shedding was required, not to wound, but to awaken. Some ties unraveled not because you failed, but because you outgrew the illusion they offered. You didn't fall out of love with the world. You simply realized it could never give what it was never built to hold. The things you let go of were never meant to sustain you. They were temporary scaffolds for a season of construction. What you gained in return could never be measured in numbers or noise. You gained truth, clean and piercing. You gained depth, layered and lasting. You gained presence, not the kind that's followed, but the kind that anchors. In losing the echo chamber, you found the whisper that had always been calling you home. Now, the chase is over. The striving is done. What you once pursued is no longer the goal. What you now carry is beyond titles or trends. This kind of transformation doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It is felt in the quiet confidence of knowing who you are and who you serve. You became less visible to the world because you were becoming more visible to yourself. What left was never meant to stay, and what remained is solid, sacred, and true. There's no need to prove anything anymore. The fruit will speak. The path will confirm. And those who couldn't see it before will soon see the evidence. The light wasn't found in applause. It was born in consecration. And now, without striving, you glow. Some are born carrying antennas the world cannot see, receivers that pick up currents others deny exist. They notice what's unsaid, sense what's offbeat, and feel shifts before a single word is spoken. It's not imagination. It's not worry. It's an inner signal, pulsing with precision, alerting them before logic ever catches up. The world might label it as excess, as intensity, but in truth, it's a built-in radar for reality beyond the visible. There's a kind of perception that doesn't rely on evidence, but moves through vibration, where presence speaks louder than posture and silence screams louder than sound. While others respond to what's loud, this sensitivity whispers truth in hidden layers. The discomfort around certain faces, the tension in certain rooms, the weight in stillness, it's never random. It's a language written in spirit, not speech. What seemed like emotional overload was actually early warning. What felt like social exhaustion was spiritual preservation. This kind of inner clarity isn't a skill you picked up. It's an ancient thread woven into your essence. No classroom taught it, no crowd validated it, but it was there, all along, turning you into a quiet sentinel for what lies beneath. This gift was never meant to isolate, but to illuminate. It's why idle talk grates on you, why noise feels like clutter, why false smiles ring hollow. Because you weren't designed to scan surfaces. You were crafted to decode depths. You don't just interact, you interpret. You don't just engage, You intuit. You are wired to catch things others miss and to move with insight, not impulse. With that sensitivity comes sacred obligation. You won't be allowed to stay where your soul cannot breathe. You won't be permitted to bond with what's beautiful on the outside but barren beneath. That tug in your gut, that inner tug of war, it's calibration, not confusion. It's what's kept you a step ahead, dodging damage you couldn't explain but instinctively avoided. Your spirit is tuned to frequencies beyond the crowd's hearing. You've walked away from what others embraced, not because you judged it, but because something in you knew better. Now, what once felt burdensome has become a compass. The very thing that made you feel alien is what marks you as appointed. You're not broken. You're designed differently. You don't overthink. You perceive deeper. You don't reject people. You protect your peace. This is not your weakness. It's your armor. Your intuition is not an accident. It's your assignment. And now, no longer needing permission to trust what you feel, you've learned to stand in rooms and let your spirit lead where your eyes cannot. You are not here by accident. If you feel the pull, the knowing deep inside that you are chosen, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to unlock deeper insights, exclusive content, and a path that aligns with your divine purpose. This isn't just a contribution, it's a declaration, a step toward who you are meant to be. Answer the call, walk with us, and step fully into your destiny. Your journey begins now. This isn't just an elevation, it's a transfer of weight. The shift underway isn't for spotlight, but stewardship. What's happening now isn't fame, it's fulfillment. This season wasn't granted because of your speed or your voice. It was forged in the depths where no one was clapping, where you were shaped without witness. Now the moment meets the messenger. The external change is simply a reflection of internal mastery. This alignment didn't come easy. The pressure, the pause, the pruning, it was all preparation. What others called stagnation was the forming of foundation. The call on your life was never shallow. It was sculpted in layers too deep for public eyes to understand. Now comes the point where your pain makes sense, where every unseen victory rises to the surface, where the strength you built behind closed doors finally finds expression. The tests weren't setbacks, they were shaping tools. What once felt like breaking was the bending that built you. This isn't just your rise, it's a reckoning with everything that tried to unmake you, every lie you believed about your worth, every voice that tried to minimize your gift, every circumstance that tried to cap your calling. It all collapses here, at the feet of your becoming. What's ahead will not flatter your ego, it will stretch your soul. The impact won't be measured in numbers, but in transformation. You are not stepping forward for claps, you're stepping forward with clarity. Your words will not echo, they will shift. Your presence will not just impress, it will align. You carry something that was cultivated in fire and confirmed in silence. This is what you were preserved for, not comfort, not ease, but significance. Now that you've crossed the threshold of becoming, you are no longer hoping. You are certain, no longer rehearsing. You are releasing. The time you once feared you'd never see has arrived, and it recognizes you as its match. This is not a soft launch. This is a declaration, a divine unveiling of what has been growing in the shadows. Now, when your name is called, you won't rise as someone reaching. You'll rise as someone rooted, not waiting for approval, already approved, not hoping for strength, already fortified. The wait was long, but the weight you now carry is longer lasting. The old doubts hold no voice here. The old fears find no echo. What you built privately will sustain you publicly. You've passed the test. You're not just entering a new chapter. You're becoming the proof that preparation always precedes purpose. Step forward. You're not arriving, you're revealing.